Part 48. Pokemon's Character Master. Author, Ai Ren Huo Chiang Xiao. Chapter 491. Oh. Quack. Looking at such a beautiful scene on the sea, Geranium naturally cannot lag behind. Although she cannot wrap her slender body around the tropical dragon like Domali, she can be tied up with a vine whip. Tropical Dragon looked blankly behind him and Geranium, who tied them both together with a vine whip. I'm afraid I can't separate them even if I want to. On Bai Diao's back. Dada gently picked up his golden conch hat and carefully wiped the outside of the hat. Looking at the empty appearance inside the hat, he felt a little bit reluctant, but more importantly, he felt great joy. There will no longer be a little fish in his golden conch cap, but beside Dede and Xian, there is also a little fish that has evolved into a great beauty. With warmth in his heart, Dede put the hat in his arms on his head solemnly and straightened it. I hugged the Tijipai elf egg again. Dede has grown up, Xian has grown up, Xiaoxiao has also grown up. Little Pokeby, break out of your shell quickly. Dada's heart beat lightly with joy, her round, pink, and tender belly jumped, and she patted the glass shell of the egg incubator, looking forward to the appearance of little Tijipai. Don't be afraid, little guys, don't be afraid. If it weren't for the big sun in the sky, Yang Yu would have been afraid that he would be shivering and freezing to death from the mini dragon. Like Yang Yu, Wu Yuqian was constantly soothing Bai Diao's frightened soul. Mum. The little dream demon and the mini dragon emerged from Yang Yu's clothes almost at the same time. The little dream demon, who didn't know what fear was, also felt fear deeply during this adventure. That is the deep malice from the evil element towards the ghost element. It's okay for the little dream demon to stick its head out from Yang Yu's clothes. After all, the ghost-type elves are very light and small in size, but the mini dragon is different. At this moment, in Yang Yu's short-sleeved clothes, there is something unbearable to look at. Like a cat made of water, the mini dragon can easily get into the sleeves. This made Yang Yu couldn't help but have an idea in his mind. Can't carry it? Roar. Yi. At this moment, King Xianyu and Domali finally swam slowly to the sea on Bai Diao's side and shouted to Yang Yu behind Bai Diao. Aha! The mini dragon that emerged from the collar of Yang Yu's chest opened its eyes wide. What did it see? It was, that big beautiful dragon. It looked like its mother. Hey, mini dragon, where are you going? Yang Yu felt the mini dragon emerging from his collar jump directly into the sea below. When the mini dragon quickly moved its head towards Domali's body, the salted fish king and Domali seemed to have 3 silly hairs sprouting from their heads. Sigma. The salted fish king wants to be a father? But how could it be a mini dragon? How could the salted fish king and Domali expect that this confused mini dragon would jump up and blindly admit their mate? Domali sighed softly. She knew in her heart why the mini dragon behaved like this, and her beautiful red hair like fins gently patted the mini dragon's head. Aha! Yi. Domali patiently explained that she was not the mother of the mini dragon. However, it was precisely because of the help of Minas in the East China Sea Dragon Palace that her evolution became more perfect this time. Aha! The mini dragon still has a hard time believing that the small fish he saw before is now such a big beauty in front of him. He is simply shocked. Yi. Domali continued to pat the mini dragon's shiny head, indicating that it should grow up obediently and work hard to grow up. Maybe one day in the future, the mini dragon will be able to truly find its mother, Minas. Haha, little Xiao, congratulations on the evolution. Yang Yu finally landed safely on the back of the salted fish king again. He raised his head and looked at the beautiful and amazing appearance up close. He still seemed to be living in a dream. It was really incredible. It's so beautiful. Wu Yuqian sighed sincerely. In my lifetime, junior brother Han, you are really too strong, too awesome. I thought it was incredible that you could raise Carp King into Gyarados. Now, I really have to admit, junior brother Han, you are a pervert. Minos lowered his head intimately and shook the red fins on his head with a smile on his face. He was still like a little fish in front of Yang Yu, thanking the trainer Yang Yu from the bottom of his heart. The little dream demon is almost drooling on Yang Yu's hair. It's so beautiful, so beautiful. If the little dream demon can evolve into the big beauty it is now like the little fish. That would be great. The little dream demon also wants to be beautiful. Yang Yu still felt a little unreal, so he stretched out his hand but did not touch Domali's body, for fear that this was just a dream, for fear that he would wake up from such a dream. To know. In the entire country of China, and even in the world, the number of great beauties is very few. Now, Yang Yu actually successfully cultivated it, and the little fish evolved into a big beauty. Yi. Domali didn't hesitate at all, she stuck her head out and touched Yang Yu's palm lightly. Domali can feel the human soul. Perhaps she has mysterious superpowers, and she can also sense human emotions. At this moment, Domali felt extremely happy, because from Yang Yu's heart, you could feel Yang Yu's dream-like emotions at this moment, which was the best encouragement for Domali. Not like that stupid salted fish king. Senior brother Qian, is this true? Yang Yu still asked dumbly. Wu Yuqian rolled his eyes angrily. Junior brother Han, I advise you to be a good person and speak human words. It makes me feel sour just looking at you. Grrrrrrrr. Dede waved his hands, greeting the big beauty, and also greeted the little fish who once lived in his golden conch cap. Big hug, big beauty is also full of gratitude to Dada. After thanking Yang Yu and Dudu excitedly, Domali also showed a kind smile to Yang Yu's senior brother Qian Wu Yuqian, who was also close to him. Wu Yuqian has always generously given Mu milk. He. I was actually thanked by the incredible Minos. This year must be a smooth one. Ha 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 ha, great, Wu Yuqian was equally happy at the moment. There are so many talented trainers across the country. At this moment, only he and Yang Yu witnessed the evolution of the JoJo fish, which evolved into the extremely rare Minos. Being able to meet junior brother Han on the road of being a trainer, this was done by senior brother Qian, it was so lucky and worth it. Yang Yu, look quickly, are there a group of elves over there on the sea level? Are they riding dragons? Wu Yuqian's eyes flashed, as if he had discovered a treasure in the sea. What did I just say? Dragon, I remember that an elite trainer over the East China Sea had a riding dragon. It was a very rare elf. It was great. It would be even better if I could capture a riding dragon. They seem to be coming in our direction. Yang Yu was surprised. Let's take a look at the situation first. Somewhere unknown at the bottom of the sea, this is where the deep sea battle between the Scarlet Salted Fish King and the Overlord Megalodon happened not long ago. At this time, the ground here has been completely cracked and devastated. Even the escaped Overlord Megalodon, he also gave up this piece of territory he once owned, unwilling to return here with a group of Megalodon sharks. There seemed to be no fluctuations in the silent seabed, which was dark and seemed to be filled with sand and dust. However, on this seemingly dead and silent ground, there are vague and unpredictable movements of life. Above the dust and ruins, suddenly, something seemed to break out of the ground. A flower with a faint golden light. Blooming quietly in the deep sea. The petals are full of vitality, spreading and spreading all around. Mysterious, fascinating. Continue to ask for votes. Pokemon's Character Master. Author, Ai Ren Huo Xiangxiao. Chapter 492. The sea returned to calm, and the waves swayed away, bit by bit, the smell of a war that had taken place here, as if it was silently forgotten. Cluck K. Cluck K. It probably means that newborn calves are not afraid of tigers. These unevolved Magi carp dance much more cheerfully than Gyarados like baby Bola, which makes the salty fish king just want to look up at the sky. The beauty's beautiful eyebrows stood up, and in an instant, these magi carps stopped obediently, lined up in a square formation, and then hid behind Gyarados tremblingly, not daring to move at all. But, looking at their naturally fearless looks, I guess they will dare to peek next time. Ho ho ho! Little Gyarados returned victorious and faced off against the Megalodon group. Like the remaining Gyarados, he was determined to move forward and use the unique momentum of the salty fish thrust to break through the Megalodon group's formation. Nothing goes wrong. Ho ho ho! The other Gyarados immediately thought this was some kind of slogan and shouted 3 times in unison. This made little Bayo couldn't help but turn around with eyes wide open. Why, shouting roar 3 times is his exclusive roar, okay. What are you Gyarados shouting about? But seeing as there were so many Gyarados behind him, Gyarados had no choice but to take the loss. The salty fish king slowly moved his eyes from little Tyrannosaurus to the Gyarados behind him, especially the one that was scarred but still standing on the top of the sea. This is the true warrior. Roar. The sea, at this moment, has a place for Gyarados and Magikarp's army. Like Yang Yu and Wu Yuqian, the salted fish king and Dameli also discovered the uninvited guests swimming quickly on the sea level. After the salted fish king appeased the Gyarados and Carp King army here, he and the big beauties around him, under Yang Yu's instructions, waited for the group of looming dragons. For trainers who go on a long trip to the sea or have adventures, it is a very lucky thing to meet a group of dragons on the ocean. Dragons in the sea, in the minds of trainers, are similar to the mascots of the sea. Some trainers even go deep into the sea just to see the dragons with their own eyes. Especially the adventurous trainers in the West have a belief in Lapras, riding the dragon, in the ocean that is unmatched by trainers in the East. The dragon riding group seems to be really coming towards us Wu Yuqian's side. I think they might have been attracted by Minas's singing. I really didn't expect it. This year you can see a group of dragons on this sea, he. Yang Yu nodded in agreement. In his mind, he remembered the scene when Master Ji released the injured Qianlong into the sea and reunited with the Qianlong group. The impression of Qianlong in his mind. Yang Yu couldn't help but lower his head and glance at the mini-dragon next to Dameli. It was much better than this greedy little mini-dragon. Mum. The mini-dragon innocently raised its head and looked at Yang Yu. The big white nose with bubbles looked a little confused, and she didn't know why Yang Yu would look at it at this time. Qianlong plays a very important role in the great maritime deeds in history. For sailors or trainers, if they can meet Qianlong at sea, then the subsequent voyage will be extremely safe. Wu Yuqian continued with a smile, and Qianlong will rescue people who accidentally fall into the sea. This is a very gentle and friendly elf. It would be great if we could really take away a Qianlong. But it looks, small from this distance, a bit like a blue duck. Yang Yu joked, and a slightly funny picture appeared in his mind. Little duck? Duckling, Wu Yuqian's mind was a little confused. Kodak duck and Qianlong, how can they be compared? The Gotha duck after evolution is still very good. Forget about the stupid Kota duck. Wu Yuqian still remembers that stupid Kota duck in the meteor forest and almost swallowed his pot. If there wasn't that gray shell, haha, how could it be a duck? Yang Yu smiled and shook his head. Seeing that Wu Yuqian's face didn't look very good, he quickly asked, Mr. Wu brother, what's wrong? Don't mention it. I still remember what happened in Meteor Forest. I still can't figure it out. If your roommate doesn't raise a good elf, why would you raise a Kodak? Wu Yuqian couldn't help but wave his hands and complain. For a trainer like Wu Yuqian, it is best to take the initiative in matters in his own hands. He is afraid of encountering some fools who cannot explain clearly, and Kodakya is one of them. Just thinking about it gives me a headache. Roar. The salted fish king narrowed his eyes slightly and watched the group of dragons in front of him getting closer and closer. Although he did not feel the obvious hostility like the megalodon shark, he would not let up the necessary vigilance. Yi. The two light tentacles on the big beauty's head sense the sensory information sent back from the front end, and gracefully raises its head at the front end of the right side of the salty fish king's big head in her favorite position when she was a little fish. If the salty fish king's look was unparalleled in the world, such a beautiful gaze would be as gentle as the world. Ang. When the Chenglong group arrived less than a few hundred meters directly in front of the salted fish king, the leader Chenglong slowly stopped and at the same time, issued a friendly greeting in the direction of the salted fish king and Male. What are they doing? Yang Yu rubbed his eyes, feeling that the movements of these dragons were a bit strange. Let the little Chenglong swim in front. Are the Chenglongs so friendly and reassuring? Wu Yuqian couldn't say anything for a while. Yang Yu, no matter how you say it, at least this is a very friendly gesture. Bar. But these little dragons look quite cute. Oops. Just when Yang Yu said these words, there were waves of pain on his head. Damn Yang Yu, it's been a long time since he praised his little dream monster for being cute. After all this time, this is the first time he's praised it, and he's actually praising those strange little elves? Damn it! Stop, 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 the little dream demon is the cutest. The little dream demon is the cutest in the world. Yang Yu's mouth was a little crooked. How could he call other strange elves cute in front of the little dream demon? Woolen cloth. Just when those little Chenglongs, a little scared and a little excited on their faces, slowly swam towards Yang Yu and Wu Yuqian. The little confused dragon next to Domei suddenly trembled. It has an ominous feeling. Wu. Wu. The little dragons had particularly endearing expressions on their faces, and they were well behaved. From time to time they would look up at the special, very tall Gyarados, and then immediately shrink back when they saw the ferocious look in their eyes. Head. Haha, Yang Yu, don't tell me, this is the first time I've seen such a small Chenglong. It's so cute. Wu Yuqian smiled and reached into his pocket and took out a box. When Wu Yuqian opened the box and revealed the energy cube in the box, a secret look of unknown joy flashed in the eyes of these little Chenglongs. Mum. This look. In an instant, the mini dragon spotted it. The mini dragon suddenly became excited. They cheated on people to eat and drink, actually came to steal its business. Hee hee. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Pokemon's Character Master. Author, Ai Ren Huo Chiang Xiao. Chapter 493. Ang Ugh. After Xiao Glong bit an energy cube, he screamed excitedly, thanked Wu Yuqian very obediently, and then swam to Yang Yu's side while wagging his little tail. Smash it with your mouth, and after happily swallowing the energy cube into your stomach, you open your eyes as bright as waves and look up at Yang Yu cutely. Yang Yu smiled and stretched out his hand to touch the little Chenglong's head. The little dream monster on the hair pouted and stared at the little Chenglong. The little Chenglong responded obediently to Yang Yu's hand. Yang Yu continued to touch. Xiao Glong continued to respond. At this moment, the second little Chenglong came over with the energy cube given by Wu Yuqian in its mouth, and lined up at Yang Yu's place. However, the little Chenglong in front still couldn't cheat an energy cube from Yang Yu's hand. The first little Chenglong almost cried in his heart. Why was this person in front of him so different from what his parents said? He was completely different. His head is almost bald and his neck is gone. Why doesn't this person give him energy cubes? Ha ha ha, what a cute little elf. Wu Yuqian squatted while feeding energy cubes to the little Chenglongs lined up behind him. This feeling was as if he had raised a group of Chenglongs, and he was extremely happy. Comfortable. For Wu Yuqian, resources like energy cubes were just drizzle and nothing at all. There were still energy cubes in the hypnotic circle that induced the dream taper to be used up. Now feeding a little dragon like this, a little dragon like this, just with some energy cubes, you can feel a wholehearted happiness. After all, this is a dragon ride. Ordinary trainers can't even feed them. Wuyukin's home is located on the grassland, and he also raises many species of elves. When it comes to raising elves, he has an advantage that most trainers don't have: he is rich. It's a pity that although he is rich, Wuyukin still can't feed some elves who cherish quality, and there is a whole group of elves. For Wuyukin, feeding small Chenlongs with energy cubes like now may be something that he never dared to think about before. Even on the sea, it is difficult to encounter a group of Chenlongs. Today, this incredible idea actually came true. My heart is filled with unprecedented satisfaction. Buh. Those groups of Mahayana dragons, watching the small Chengdu dragons playing happily with their trainers, eating, drinking, coughing, it's really wonderful. Speaking of which, they look a little greedy. The food made by the trainer, whether it is energy cubes or something else, is infinitely better than what they eat. The Mahayana dragons secretly looked at the trainer Wuyukin, who was feeding him with the corner of their eyes. They didn't know how many energy cubes the trainer still had. Whether they could eat some of them, of course, they had to do it first. Let the little dragons eat first. So cute. Just when Yang Yu took back his hand, the first little Chenlong almost cried. It was so difficult to be forced to go out to do business. After being touched by this hateful trainer in front of him for so long, he was finally able to trick him out of the energy cube. Already. Just when the first small Chenlong looked at Yang Yu's hand expectantly with tears in its eyes, the next second it looked dumbfounded. Instead of taking out the box or the energy cube from his pocket, Yang Yu began to touch the head of the second little Chenlong. "Hey, little guy, why don't you leave?" Yang Yu stretched out his left hand and lightly tapped the head of the first small Chenlong. "Go back to your parents quickly, they must be waiting impatiently." Yang Yu's tone was so gentle and his smile was so kind. However, the first little Chenlong made me want to cry just looking at it. You are still human. It doesn't mean that as long as it meets a trainer, it just needs to act cute and beg for some delicious food, just like the small candy-like cube just now. Gilu. The first little Chenlong couldn't help but look towards the place where the bubbles were coming out. It turned out to be a mini dragon secretly hiding in the sea water under the salted fish king. I couldn't help laughing and spitting bubbles. Whoa! The first little Chenlong was so angry that he cried. The mini dragon was so happy at this time that he even stopped hiding and proudly emerged from the sea with its head. He, if you want to cheat on food and drink, there is no way. It didn't take long for the second little Chenlong to have its head bald. When it swam out, its little head was dizzy and it had a big look like, "Who am I? Where am I? What the hell did I just get hummed, what?" Yang Yu couldn't be happier now. These little dragons are so cute. This is much better than those in the Land Elf Hall or the Ocean Elf Hall. You don't have to spend money to buy tickets, feed, or energy cubes. You can save it. It's free. You can just go there for free. It's really fun to have sex for free. Yang Yu didn't expect that he could actually touch so many small Chenlongs during this trip. The small Chenlongs were cute and the big ones were heroic, but it was not a loss to be able to touch the small Chenlongs. It was a pity that Wuyukin was still feeding energy cubes, but seeing the smile on senior brother Qian's face, Yang Yu thought about it and understood that this was probably senior brother Qian's happiness, well, the happiness of being rich. For Yang Yu, free prostitution, spicy is the real pleasure. At this time, the little dream monster on Yang Yu's hair stopped making noises, and even the corners of his mouth turned up. Just like the mini dragon, his eyes were extremely proud. Ying. The little dream demon also saw it, so what's wrong with being cute? Can being cute enough to trick Master Yang into getting energy cubes? Delusion. Hey, if you want to deduct coins, you have to bring your baby to complete the steps in order to exchange for a small amount of money. You actually want to be cute and cheat the energy cubes from Master Yang Yu, humph. Yang Yu's skillful techniques quickly knocked the third little Chenglong into a daze. Working at the elf nursery and ocean park was not for nothing. He had to give some elves massages every day. It's already pretty good if you don't charge any money from these little dragons. Xiao Chenglong, who was lining up at the back, looked at the bewildered expressions of his friends and thought he had eaten some delicious food, otherwise. Can you have such an expression? Obviously, this is simply impossible. The little dragons in the front couldn't care less about the little dragons in the back. They had to run back to their parents to complain. What kind of trainer did they meet? They felt that they were not meeting a normal person. How could there be such a stingy trainer? Didn't mom and dad say? I met trainers in the sea, and they were the kind of trainers with big elves sitting on them. They were very generous, very kind and very nice. They were not stingy with delicious food. They were very willing to feed the dragons. Tasty food. Some small Chenglongs have tried it once before. Really, those things they ate will never be forgotten in this life. But what happened to the trainer I met today? Not only did I not give them anything to eat, I almost wiped their heads off. The dizzy little dragons looked at each other with tears in their eyes. Little Chenglong number 1, did your head get bald? Other little Chenglong, what a coincidence, me too. My parents are bullying me. The lesser dragons, the leopard heads cry. Ha ha ha, I kinda like it. Pokemon's Character Master. Author, Ai Ren Huo Xiangxiao. Chapter 494. When the lesser dragons burst into tears and cried in the arms of the Mahayana dragons, the eyes of the Mahayana dragons became a little dull. No, they are walking in the rivers and lakes. Oh no, the rivers and lakes are too small, they are clearly walking in the sea. How come the rich experience they have accumulated from walking in the sea for so many years is not used today? I have never met such a stingy trainer. Not even an energy cube. In this vast sea, it is not easy for the Chenglong group to find their trainers. They have been swimming for who knows how long. It is not easy to see trainers who have ventured into the sea these days. No, they are in such a hurry. Why are you here in such a hurry? It was like a voice saying, hey guys, it's time to eat. However, when they came here, there was no wool, and the feelings were wasted. The little Cheng dragons feel miserable. A pair of resentful little eyes, as if they were more wrong than Doi, all looked in the direction of the hateful Yang Yu. They remembered this hateful person. Hey, it feels so good to feed the little Chenglongs. Yang Yu, why don't you feed them a little? After Wu Yuqian fed all the little Chenglongs, he clapped his hands and felt extremely satisfied. Yang Yu smiled the same way, forget it, I don't need it. I have to leave my energy cube to the mini dragon, the little dream monster and the big beauty. I guess I will have to give it a share after Tajipai is born. Me. 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 The two little guys, the mini dragon and the little dream demon, faced Yang Yu's face left and right. The mini dragon poked it with its big white nose, and the little dream demon hugged and gnawed it. This was a reward for Yang Yu. Award. Well, as a reward, Yang Yu misses the mini dragon and the little dream monster in his heart, especially when facing the colorful world outside without spending a penny from home. Okay, okay, okay. Yang Yu waved his hands repeatedly. It's okay to kiss the little dream demon, but the mini dragon has a salty smell of sea water. Yang Yu even felt that his previous beauty treatments were in vain. Yes. Your energy cubes are specially made. By the way, Yang Yu, do you have a lot of stock? Can you share some with me? I'll pay you. Wu Yuqian told Yang Yu that the energy cubes he fed to the ugly fish were. I am so curious, after all, this is the energy cube that fed Venus. No need for the money, here it is, brother Wu, Yang Yu gestured to Dudu to take out a box and handed it to Wu Yuqian. At the same time, he took out a small box in his pocket and gave it to Mini Dragon and Xiao Meng. The demon fed a few pills. This special energy cube has a different color from ordinary energy cubes, and the crystal clearness that flashes in the sunlight is also unusual. It looks a bit mysterious at the moment. At this moment, the eyes of the little dragons on the water were very bright. They all stared at their big eyes, trying to remember this abominable trainer in their minds, especially the little dragon at the front who had the worst massage. Dragon. His head was almost bald, and his neck felt thinner. This little dragon stared at it most seriously. What did these small dragons see? That abominable trainer is actually feeding the mini dragon and that black little dream monster delicious food. That thing looks tastier than the small square candy that I ate before. Don't ask why, because the small square candy that the little dragons ate before was a bit translucent and white. Now the mini dragon and little dream demon food. It's purple and crystal clear. Those are small purple square candies. They look delicious at first glance, but they are rarer than the translucent white ones. The little dragons don't know much about the human world, and their minds at this time are similar to those of human children. They are all very young. They will definitely not be able to help themselves when they see delicious food, especially those who can see it but cannot eat it. When you arrive, you will be even more greedy. These little dragons forgot to shed tears as they looked at it. They all stared eagerly in the direction of the mini dragons and the little dream monsters, and looked at the amethyst-like energy cube in Yang Yu's hand twisting with his index finger and thumb. Gudong. They had long forgotten what the small square candies they had eaten before tasted like. All they were thinking about now were all those amethyst-colored small square candies. They looked so greedy and wanted to eat them. What did they taste like? Ah! The next second, all the little Chenglongs felt as if their hearts were broken. That mini dragon. The mini dragon actually bumped into it and swallowed the amethyst-colored small square candy in one bite. Damn it! The little dragons all shared the same hatred for a while. Seeing the mini dragon eating in such an indecent manner, they felt strong dissatisfaction in their hearts. Blue thin, shiitake mushroom. The little dragons are so cute, why don't they have small square candies that look delicious to eat? At this time, the mini dragon was still winking, raising its head up and down at the small dragons who couldn't eat even if they wanted to, and cheering, but this made the small dragons very angry. At this moment, Yang Yu took another special energy cube and handed it to the little dream demon. The little dream monster is different from the mini dragon. The little dream monster has hands. The little dream demon could sense the emotions of those little dragons clearly. A hint of cunning flashed in the depths of his little eyes. The corners of his mouth were slightly raised, revealing the cute little tiger teeth. He smiled harmlessly, looking cute. Duh. However, everyone who is familiar with the little dream demon knows that the little dream demon is about to start causing trouble. The little dream demon twisted the purple energy cube with his little hands, and pointed it at the sun at the same time. He raised it high to the ground. The sun shone on the energy cube, as if it was shining with crystal light. The little dream demon's cunning eyes looked towards those little dragons, glanced in the direction and said yum 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 as if they were asking, "Do you want to eat it?" At this time, the little dream demon twisted the diagonal corners of the energy cube to give the crystal purple energy cube a better angle, so that the little dragons could see it more clearly and be more greedy. As expected, each of these little dragons' eyes were shining, crystal clear, like waves. They stared pitifully at the hands of the little dream demon, as if they were no longer seeing small squares of candy, but something peerless. Tasty. The little dream demon squeezed and rubbed it gently with her little hands, watching the eyes of the little Chenglongs jump and jump. They really wanted to say the classic line from the Wangzhe candy advertisement. "Come on baby." The little dream demon raised her eyebrows proudly. The little tiger teeth at the corner of the mouth seemed to flash an evil light. Look again, and swallow the energy cube. Oh! Swallow it in one gulp. The little Cheng dragons were all dumbfounded. Devil! This elf is a devil. The little dragons, who had almost stopped crying just now, started to look back again. The leopard head cried. Woohoo! I really want to eat that energy cube that the devil eats. Ha 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 ha, please vote. Pokemon's Character Master. Author, Ai Ren Huo Chiang Xiao. Chapter 495. Yi. The beauty couldn't help but wipe her forehead with her hair fins and cover her eyes. The scene in front of her was probably something she would never forget. There are so many small Chenglongs in the Chenglong group, crying together with their heads in their hands, and they seem to be crying even more pitifully in the presence of the Mahayana dragons. However, what is completely different from the atmosphere in the Chenglong group is that the Carp Kings behind the Salted Fish King at this moment, although they have experienced the test of life and death, they are not depressed at all, but because this time they are enough to survive in the long river of life. The experience that left a lasting mark has allowed the momentum of the entire Carp King army to continue to gather and improve. Cluck K. Carp King looked at the group of crying little dragons behind Gyarados, and felt very curious. In this world, besides living well, what else is worth crying about? Roar. The Salted Fish King actually gave Little Dream Demon a thumbs up with his eyes, and little Bayo Bayo behind him was also watching the show happily. Anyway, seeing these lousy children crying on their own was an interesting refreshment after this big battle. Boom. What can the Mahayana dragons do? They can only admit that they are unlucky. The trainer they met this time did not play according to common sense at all. The one in front was better, but the one in the back, forget it, let's not talk about it. The leader Chenglong's gaze has been falling on the giant Gyarados, the Salty Fish King, and the beautiful Minaz next to the Salty Fish King. Such a combination. Even Chenglong, who also likes peace, can't understand it. Minas, who has always been the embodiment of beauty and peace in both legends and records, actually stays with Gyarados, which is known for its violence and cruelty in the sea. It even seemed that the relationship was far closer than Chenglong imagined. In the sea. How long has it been since I met Minas? The leader, Chenglong, didn't know it, but he knew in his heart that there were some things that had been passed down from generation to generation from the ancestors of Chenglong. Every time Minas appeared, it might mean that something big might happen in the ocean in the near future. Perhaps it would be better if Minas is protected by the overlord Gyarados in front of him. But having said that, there is a saying that the leader Chenglong is just a pure passerby, that is, the trainer behind the overlord Gyarados seems to be too stingy, and he is so short of energy cubes. Woo-oh! Woo-oh! As the saying goes, crying children get candy. Wooyukin didn't have any immunity to these cute little Chenglongs. Looking at the crying little Chenglongs, the milky sounds made him feel distressed. He quickly waved his hand to signal the dream-inducing taper. The person takes out the stored energy cube. Poor little Chenglong, seeing Wooyukin's waving action, he stood in line crying and continued to beg for the small cubes of candy. However, the energy cubes were still translucent and white, with purple crystal energy. Compared with the cube, I still want the latter one more. For children, what they can't eat is what they want to eat most. While eating the energy cube given by Wooyukin, he stared pitifully in the direction of Yang Yu, especially at the hateful mini-dragon and the little dream monster. They were bullying the little dragon. The little dream demon was holding her little head high, arrogantly, crossing her little hands on her chest, humming and humming. At this moment, she was like the most dazzling elf in the elf kindergarten, looking at these bumpkin little dragons. If they want to eat special energy cubes, you can eat the little dream monster for them to see, it's delicious. At this time, the little Chenglongs who are waiting in line around the salted fish king can probably sing a song of sad Pacific here. Of course, if Yang is asked to start the song, I am afraid it will not only be sad Pacific Ocean and sinking the Pacific Ocean are both possible. Yeah. When he rubbed the little Chenglong's head with a grin on his face, his big eyes were stunned, and he reached out and touched the back of his head. Just now, he seemed to feel the slight vibration of the elf egg in the incubator in his arms again, and the amplitude of the vibration began to increase. Whoa! The little Chenglong in front of him cried a few more times. Although he was crying, there were no tears in the corners of his eyes at this time. Click, click, click. Yeah. Dede couldn't help but hold the egg incubator high, with his hands stretched out, facing his big eyes. Grrrrrrrr. He turned around blankly, controlled the egg incubator steadily with his right hand, and gently poked Yang Yu's shoulder with his left hand. Tijapai's elf egg seemed to be moving more happily than before. What's wrong? Yang Yu asked with a smile. Yeah. Dada carefully handed the egg incubator in front of Yang Yu, his mouth wide open. Yeah, ah. This is, wait a minute, Tijapai has reacted to the elf egg. Yang Yu suddenly felt a little surprised. The little dream demon and mini dragon in Yang Yu's arms poked their heads out at the same time, all their eyes focused on the egg incubator in Dudu's hand, focusing on the elf egg decorated with red and blue triangular patterns. Yi. De Mali discovered the situation on Yang Yu's side and slowly came over from the sea. She was also very concerned about Tijapai's elf eggs. When he was on the university campus, the little dream demon held the rope of the car, took Tijapai's elf egg and the original little fish out for a walk under this subtle influence. The relationship between them can also be said to have improved by leaps and bounds. Look at the shaking of Tijapai's elf egg. Is this about to be born? Yi. There is a warm smile on the big beautiful face, which is brighter than the sun in the sky. Under that elegant figure, with such a sweet smile, even a naughty kid like Xiao Chenglong forgets to cry and even touches his nose. I didn't even notice the snot bubbles popping up in my nose. Beautiful big sister. Roar. The salted fish king turned his head, bent his neck, and looked down from above. His big eyes were looking at Tijapai's elf egg. If he were to stare, the salted fish king's eyes would probably be bigger. Click, click, click. Yang Yu, the elf egg is broken. Tijapai is about to break out of its shell. Wu Yukin stood up quickly. The little dragons lined up behind him did not continue to feed the energy cubes, their eyes were full. Transferred to Yang Yu's side. The eyes of the little Chenglong dragons who had not begged for the energy cubes began to have a layer of mist, and the grievances in their hearts began to condense again, little by little, until their grievances reached their peak, and the little Chenglong dragons opened their small mouths. Click, 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 click. Wow! The terrifying cry was like the beginning of heaven and earth, sweeping across the entire sea and resounding throughout the blue sky. The throats of the little dragons all moved. Traveling to an island country in parallel time and space, there is a Naruto tower defense system. This should be a double happiness, but who knows that monsters in the tower defense system also appear. What should I do? Wait online, it's urgent. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Pokemon's Character Master. Author, Ai Ren Huo Chiang Xiao. Chapter 496. Tears, can tears really flow into a river? Maybe before today, Yang Yu didn't believe it, but now, Yang Yu believes it. If the tears burst, can they really fly down for 9 days like 2 waterfalls? Believe it or not, Yang Yu believed it anyway. It turns out that everything in the cartoon is real. Yang Yu covered his ears with both hands. Even so, he could still feel the surging cry in his ears. The sound that was more terrifying than Yang Yu's singing finally appeared at this time. Tijipai is born out of nowhere. Damn it, the devil boy Neza is not as terrifying as Poach when he breaks out of his shell. Yang Yu's whole body was furious. Those two sloping waterfall-like tears poured directly into the sea, an endless stream, and even the waterfall-like tears became more and more majestic. I don't know if Yang Yu should be grateful that he is above the endless sea at this moment. If this Tijipai breaks out of his shell in his own house, I am afraid that there will be a direct flood and the entire community will be submerged. What kind of elf is this? He is simply a world-destroying little demon boy. The little dragons around the salty fish king all stared with big round eyes, as if they were trying to gather the crying power of the entire group of little dragons, to compete with Bojbi's cry. Isn't it more about who cries louder? We will not admit defeat. A kid friend must be a kid friend. As a qualified kid friend, although the fight has not started yet, the momentum must not be lost, especially when the other party has started to cry, then we have to compete. The person on the other side cried louder. Whoever cries loudest will win this battle. The world of little friends is so simple and cute. Previously, Tijipai took the lead and was caught off guard. The little dragons were not prepared. Now, they have regained their strength and are bound to take back the title of the most crying elf on the sea. Woo 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 woo. Under the extremely stunned and suspicious eyes of the Mahayana dragons, the lesser dragons all cried out in rebellion. The leader of the Chenglong group has already buried his whole head in the sea. Don't be too embarrassed. How can you give birth to these cubs in your own group? The Mahayana dragons began to look at the group of small Chengdu dragons with extremely suspicious eyes, fearing that they were not a group of humming retarded people, right? The Magi Carp King's army, which normally looked confused, now entered a double confused state and dived into the deep sea almost instantly. There is no place for ordinary elves to stay on this sea. The gods fight and the Carp King suffers. Dear masters, if you want to fight against the elves, just fight well, okay? Don't cry so loudly. Finally, Tijipai's cry seemed to be slightly covered up by the group of small dragons. The two rows of waterfalls in the corners of Tijipai's eyes stopped a little. He blinked his small eyes, flowing with crystal clear eyes, and looked at the group of whining animals around him. The little Chenglongs who cried collectively. Me. Drop. A. Turtle. Turtle, the energy cube in Wu Yuqian's hand shook into the sea, just to cover his ears in time. This scene can be called a Shura field. Tijipai, Tijipai, can we please stop crying? Yang Yu thought that this was the beginning of the disaster, but he never expected that this was just the appetizer of this unparalleled elf war, and it was on his face when I put on a smile and prepared to comfort Tijipai. I only saw Tijipai's small mouth that moved like a wave had a tendency to open again, and the bulging corners of his eyes seemed to be ready for the next crying duel. Just when Yang Yu wanted to stretch out his hand to block the wave. When Kirby started to cry. Wow! Sound wave directly pushed Yang Yu's hand away, and a cry more terrifying than before, appeared. This time, while Tijipai was crying, his little hands began to make noises and waved chaotically towards the sky at a very fast speed. At this moment, Yang Yu felt a little painful, and the long-lost golden light shone again. Tian'en, super lucky. My son, Yang Yu almost gritted his teeth and said these words in a voice that only he could hear. Before he finished speaking, the sky was still clear and the sun was shining high. The sun is gone. What about the day? Why is my son missing? At this moment, the clear sky was directly covered with a layer of dark clouds that appeared from nowhere. These dark clouds completely blocked the sun, and the gloomy sky seemed to be about to rain. What the hell is this? You can't change your face that fast, right? This sun will just disappear if you don't. Yang Yu and his friends were shocked. Yeah. Even Dada, who had always been calm, couldn't help but widen his eyes, opened his big mouth and looked up at the gray sky, his expression full of shock. The big beautiful eyes blinked. She didn't know why, but she liked this kind of weather better. It would be better if there were some lightning in the sky. At this time, the salted fish king's eyes were fixed on the gray sky, and there was full of expectation in his eyes. After the previous fight with the overlord Megalodon, the power stored in his body seemed to be a little insufficient. If there is powerful lightning to recharge him now, when the lightning energy in his body is full again, it will be no problem to go find the overlord Megalodon and fight him again. It seems like this. It's a bit hard for a little thing to cry. I can actually cry out on a rainy day. The lesser dragons and the Maharashtra dragons were all dumbfounded when they saw the sudden changes in the wind and clouds in the sky. Logically speaking, riding a dragon in the sea can feel the emotion of the sea through body induction. At the same time, for the weather above the sea the situation is also well understood. Today was supposed to be a sunny day, why did it suddenly happen like this? All the little Chenglongs couldn't cry for a while. Who has seen this kind of operation? Even their parents have never seen them. Crying and crying, the sun is gone? Oh my God! The crying of the little dragons has stopped, but Tijapai's crying has not stopped yet. Even, the sound keeps getting louder. The first batch of Magi-Carp King's army that lost their combat effectiveness hid their merits and fame. Later, the Gyarados also began to dive towards the water surface, unable to withstand it any longer, except for the boss of the Salty Fish King. Other Gyarados can't stand it at all. Even little Bayo Bayo only dared to show his head. Never mess with naughty kids again. The naughty children are just terrible. Yang Yu, are we filming a disaster movie? Wu Yukin didn't know what to say at all. The sun in the sky was disappearing and dark, even the elf special effects blockbusters in the cinema dared not do this. Shoot it? Senior brother Qian, what did you say? I can't hear you. Yang Yu pointed to his ears and waved his hand, indicating that his ears were full of crying and he couldn't hear it at all. The mini dragon was trembling in Yang Yu's arms, but the little dream demon, his eyes were extremely bright. If little dream demon takes Tijapai, what kind of combination can they form? Let's see who dares to stop them in the future. Ying ying ying. If anyone dares to stop, cry for them. At this time, the salted fish king slowly lowered his head and poked Tijapai's eggshell with his beard, his face full of expectations. Little brother, can you cry like lightning? Whoa, Bobby B. Wag your fingers, and cry. There was a loud sound in the sky. The salted fish king's breathing suddenly became rapid. Keep asking for votes. Pokemon's Character Master. Author, Ai Ren Huo Xiangxiao. Chapter 497. The birth of Tijapai from its shell is somewhat interesting. In fact, he was able to break out of his shell very early. But, he didn't want to. If there was a cute and charming big sister who was nice to talk to, and especially good at pulling a car and taking him out to play, who would be willing to break out of his shell in advance? Then I will have to walk again. Walking is very tiring. In the eggshell, Tijapai can already think ahead, but the more important thing is of course to cry. When crying in the eggshell, there are only cries but no tears. Tijapai does not want to break the shell early because of tears. Yes. For a while, Tijapai felt very at ease in the eggshell, as if he was being held by a pair of steady hands, and no matter what happened, there would be no shaking. This also made Tijapai feel at ease and mind his own business. Start playing with the eggs. Playing and playing. Learn it by wagging your finger. With the blessing of God's grace and super luck, it's that simple. Originally, Tijapai didn't want to break out of his shell this time, but there were so many little dragons crying around him. How could Tijapai tolerate it? As an elf who thought he could cry the most in the world, in an eggshell, how could he let a little dragon who had never seen the world cry? Act wild in front of him? Uchi Hazayo Kenlong is willing to call you the elf who can cry the most. Now, please, can you stop crying? Little Bayo Bayo took over the manned mission of the boss Xianyuking, and Xianyuking naturally flew into the sky early and fell into the arms of lightning and thunder. Roar! The salted fish king is condescending, looking down at all living beings from above the clouds, feeling the lightning energy in his body gradually filling up. The golden little fish mark on his neck is even more shining, and the dull mark on his back also exudes a golden purple mystery. Color. It's been a while since I've been struck by lightning. Ho 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 cool. The Magi Carp Kings who had just dived into the deep sea dived up one after another under the cry of Gyarados. They looked at the king fighting with lightning in the sky on the sea surface. Oh no, it was clearly the king chasing after thunder and lightning. All their eyes were filled with excitement, reverence and hope. As for the great dragons in the dragon group, where have they seen such a big science fiction scene? The giant Gyarados that is not afraid of electricity, they are all dreaming. Can't afford to offend, can't afford to offend. At this time, Male was still like the little fish before, quietly raising her head and looking at the salted fish king Didida who was dancing with lightning in the sky with the most admiring eyes. He is the most unique one in the world. That salted fish king. The rain falling from the sky fell on the eggshell on Tijipai drop by drop, ticking, ticking, very pleasant. Perhaps it was the cool rain in the sultry weather that made Tijipai's tears a little smaller. Those two smart little eyes, looking at the small raindrops falling from the sky, couldn't help but reach out and want to catching them is the same. Aha! The mini dragon also cautiously emerged from Yang Yu's arms, moving little by little, for fear of hearing the terrifying cry again. Fortunately, it has basically stopped now. Rainy days, many dragons are my favorite. The little guy quickly forgot how magical and scary things were ahead, and soon became happy on this rainy day. Huh, Yang Yu couldn't help but wipe the sweat and rain stains on his forehead, and breathed a sigh of relief. The battle is over, Wu Yukin's mouth was crooked. This was really a period of torture. Didn't Tijipi belong to little angels? Why the hell did he become a little devil when he came to their place? It's over, Yang Yu felt relieved. I heard from people who raised Tijipai at Yanjing Elf University that this is a happy elf, isn't it? Junior brother Han, you Tijipai. Wu Yukin still needs to continue to take it easy. Yang Yu's elves are either very strong, such as King Salted Fish, Menus, King Slow, Gyarados, and Little Bayo Bayo, and they are extremely strong and perverted. Either. It's just weird. You said this mini dragon will probably be very powerful in the future, but now it still looks funny. The little dream monster is also a strange flower. As for Tijipai, don't talk about it. It was just the first day we met after it had just broken out of its shell. I burst into tears immediately, even God couldn't stand it anymore, so I couldn't bear it and could only cry together. To sum up, Yang Yu is indeed a pervert. Ho ho ho. At this time, little Bayo Bayo trembled and tried to turn his head. His eyes were also red. He had been tortured by Tijipai before and could no longer hold on. Now, with great difficulty, he could calm down and let go of the pain in his heart. Crying out all the troubles. Yang Yu and Wu Yukin's expressions suddenly changed, and they shouted in unison, "Don't cry. Xiao Bao Bao. Little Bao Bao feels so miserable. Papi Ba." Tijipai was waving his hands happily in Dudu's arms at this time. The kind look on Dudu's face with a big mouth and a simple and honest smile made Tijipai smile very happily. The little dream demon stretched out his little hand and waved it in front of Tijipai. He was curious to ask Tijipai if he recognized it. Unexpectedly, Tijipai clapped his hands loudly. Cute and charming big sister. This didn't make the little dream monster happy. She was so happy now, thinking about the days when she took the Tijipai elf egg out to play with her in a small car. Hey! It's not a waste of effort. The little dream demon especially likes this kind of very honest children, who love to tell the truth, yah. The little dream demon who once rejected Tijapai's elf egg has long forgotten what he thought at the time. Now, he just wants to continue taking Tijapai with him. When the time comes, the little dream demon will take him with him. Tijapai, go and conquer the country. So happily decided. Yang Yu patted his chest, and his little heart finally felt a little better. He almost didn't cry because of Tijapai just now and doubted his life. When he chose the elf egg, he had sensed in advance that it was a crybaby Tijapai, but even if he is a crybaby, he has to have a certain limit, right? How could it be that when I start crying like this, God will thunder and rain again? When he thought of the dual characteristics of Porkbidion's grace and super luck, the corner of Yang Yu's mouth twisted again. Tian'en in the elf world not only has the effect of doubling the probability of additional effects of moves, such an elf, even God has to send a gift. Not to mention the hidden characteristics behind it are super lucky, which can make the moves more powerful in the battle between elves. Do you still remember Misty's Tijapai in the animation? Tijapai and Otaki drive the Kai Abo tank. No matter what kind of dilemma they encounter, they can use their fingers to avert danger. This is the most incredible thing about the coexistence of two characteristics, grace and super luck. Papi Ba'a. At this time, Tijapai saw all the little dragons around him who were in a daze and were defeated. He smiled and waved his hand, calling on his cute and charming big sister Menyao to jump on the back of a little dragon. The little dream demon blinked. Tijapai gently patted the gray shell of this little dragon. Let's go out and have some fun. Otherwise I will cry for you. Whether it is a small dragon or a large dragon, for a moment, it feels like it is facing a powerful enemy. Looking at this little elf, it is like looking at some big villain. This is Tijapai that can make God change his face. Although it seemed like this on the surface, what was more important now was that the dragon riders had an irresistible affection for Tijapai. This good feeling comes from deep in the soul. Even though it was indeed a bit scary to cry before, due to the characteristics of God's grace and super luck, Tijapai is like a heartthrob in the elf world. Through the perception of deep emotions, the dragon riding group found something very incredible. Bringing Tijapai with you will increase your luck. Now, Yang Yu and Wu Yuqin looked at the Tijapai in bewilderment at the same time. What happened just now? How come the dragons were carrying it and playing with the little dream monster so quickly? Dear trainers, please vote. Pokemon's Character Master. Author, Ai Ren Huo Xiangxiao. Chapter 498. Yang Yu, shush. Wu Yuqin swallowed, raised his chin in the direction of the Chenglong group, and continued in a low voice, are you going to trick the Chenglong group into following him? You were taken away based on your strength, how can you call it a lie? I didn't even realize that Tijapai and the little dream demon have such a good relationship. It seems that letting the little dream demon take care of the baby before was really useful, Yang Yu said happily. I wanted to reach out, but found that there was no small thing around me to touch my head. Tijapai and the little dream monster seemed to be playing rock climbing on the back of the dragon, and there was a little dragon protecting them, so even if they fell, there would be no danger. As for the mini dragon, it was probably going to show off the good food it ate to the group of small Chenglong dragons. This is good. When sailing on the sea, the little guy can stay with the small Chenglong group and have each other's company. By the way, the Chenglong group can also help Yang Yu take care of the baby. This wave of blood profit. What a pity, I don't seem to have an elf paired with Chenglong here, otherwise I would. Wu Yuqin murmured. Senior brother Qian, you spilled the beans. Yang Yu couldn't help but lowered his head, suddenly let out a chi, and then laughed uncontrollably. Before this, there was Kentaro and Milk Can, and then there was Geranium and Tropical Dragon. This made the elves have a love that never breaks up, wouldn't it be nice? This is different from forcibly subduing an elf. Love is free. As long as the elf is not too weak, it will naturally gain the recognition of the ethnic group and even obtain elf eggs in the future. Me. 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 At this time, the mini dragon panicked and ran away on the sea, followed by a group of small dragons. Those small dragons seemed to not give up until they caught the mini dragon. They all tried their best to catch the mini dragon, who liked to show off his superiority. For such chasing and play, the Mahayana dragons in the team are happy to watch. After all, many dragons are born to be strong. Not to mention, this mini dragon is a female mini dragon, so it would be great to get to know them more when they were young. Papi Baa. At this time, Tijapai seemed to be stuck between the handles raised on the dragon's back, waving his little hands to cheer for the mini dragons and small dragons in front of him. He looked very happy. The little dream demon stood on the back of Chenglong and looked towards the direction of the setting sun. The big fiery red sunset on the sea level seemed to be boiling the sea. He looked at the long shadow stretched behind him and patted the waves. Kirby's eggshell. Papi Baa. Tijapai turned his head and looked at the long moving shadow. He immediately stood on tiptoes, and the shadow became a little longer. He waved his little hands, and the shadow also waved. Tijapai seemed to have discovered it. Like a brand new toy, he started playing with his own shadow. The little dream monster reached out and touched the sharp corner of Tijapai's head, and Tijapai narrowed his eyes happily. Yang Yu and Wu Yukin's journey continues. The island in the center of the world. The center island of the world is a very special island located right on the equator in the center of the Pacific Ocean. This is a living island. The island in the center of the world is not always present at sea year-round. Only during the summer season every year, around early July, the world's center island seems to know that the time has come, and slowly rises from the bottom of the sea. After emerging from the water, it continues to expand the entire island to its maximum size. The islands appeared on the sea for a total of 30 days, that is, in mid-August, the center island of the world seemed to have been clicked on the off button by the sea, and the entire island slowly sank until it disappeared into the sea. Above. Elf alliances from various regions around the world have sent researchers and trainers to investigate the specific reasons for the formation of the world's center island, and have also worked together to establish a large research base on the sea. However, this island still appeared mysteriously. Even if they sent out batches of deep-sea divers, they still could not figure out why the island in the center of the world appeared out of thin air for no reason. Regarding the central island of the world, there is such an interesting rumor in most areas. Some people say that this island was finally spliced together by the roaring whale kings taking pieces of the island fragments, because in the days when the center island of the world appeared, the roaring whales and the roaring whale king would be seen nearby. When the roaring whale kings left, the island was dismantled into pieces and eventually disappeared into the ocean. The World Elf Alliance has been studying the world's center island, but there is still no progress. Due to the special characteristics of the island area, it eventually evolved over time and became the venue for the World Trainer Masters. Here you can meet many excellent trainers from all regions of the world, as well as various types of elves unique to different regions. If you are lucky, you can even exchange for some elves or elf eggs on the island. It's just a pity for trainers that the world's center island is only open for 30 days every year. Once the 30 days are over, you have to wait another year if you want to come to the world's center island again. At this rate, it will take about another day to reach the world's center island. By then, you will be able to see the magical place of the world's center island. Wu Yukin stood up, stretched, and smiled at Yang Yudao. I've heard that this island doesn't seem to have always been on the sea. Could it be that it will appear out of thin air? Yang Yu asked. No matter what you say to describe it, it can't be as good as seeing it with your own eyes. When we arrive, the island will probably not appear so soon. Then we will be able to see trainers from other parts of the world on the sea, Wu Yukin said. Interesting, this island in the center of the world is probably not a secret realm. Should we wait outside in advance for the secret realm to arrive? Yang Yu said casually. Haha, it would be nice if it was a secret realm. However, the island in the center of the world has been around for so many years, and there is not even a shadow of an elf on the island. The Elf Alliance has also dug holes to find the elves living underground, but there is still no one. Wu Yuqian spread his hands and continued, anyway, this place is not an elven secret realm, but it is quite suitable for fighting. There are all kinds of venues, and later it became the venue for the World Masters. There is no maintenance fee paid by the Elf Alliance. So true, Yang Yu's eyes widened. Of course, in the World Masters, the players who can come here are at least no less than elites, and there may even be gym-level opponents. Fighting will still have a great impact on the damage to the venue. Of course, we do not rule out a wealthy trainer who came here to meet the world. Wu Yuqian smiled. Yang Yu nodded and lay down on the back of the Salted Fish King. He was about to turn his head and say something to the Salted Fish King. Unexpectedly, the Salted Fish King was actually looking up at the stars and the moon with Male. Forget it, let's eat. Yang Yugong shouted in the direction of the mini dragon, Tijipai, and the little dream monster. Unexpectedly, a wandering dragon seemed to appear in the sea with a swift movement, leaping directly into Yang Yu's arms. Aha! Aha! The mini dragon raised its head and shouted twice toward the sky, making Yang Yu's mouth twitch. This mini dragon, isn't it also possessed by Urha? Boom! Ongguo. Just behind the mini dragon, a team of small dragons appeared immediately, all looking towards Yang Yu with wide envious eyes. Follow my eldest sister and you can have sweets. Aha! Aha! The mini dragon proudly arched Yang Yu's chest. Looking at the little dragons behind me, they seemed to be saying, look! This is the harem that I took back this afternoon. Everyone can guess the plot behind it? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Pokemon's Character Master. Author, Ai Ren Huo Xiangxiao. Chapter 500. Yang Yu, these little Chenglongs, since when have they become so close to you? Wu Yuqian was eating, and suddenly he felt that the food in his mouth no longer tasted good. To be honest, he also fed these small dragons energy cubes. Why are these small dragons hanging around Yang Yu? Could it be? I don't want to. But these little dragons are waiting for my energy cubes here. What can I do? Now it seems that whether it is Tijipai, the little dream monster, or the mini dragon, they seem to be the same as the little dragons. It's a good game, so I have no choice but to give them energy cubes. Yang Yu sighed. After such a round of feeding, at least tens of thousands of elf coins were spent. Did you see Yang Yu covering her chest? Ming Meng's heart aches. Is this just playing hard to get? Wu Yuqian touched his chin thoughtfully. During the day, the reason why special energy cubes are not used for feeding is so that it can attract the attention of the Xiaocheng dragons, especially for children. What cannot be eaten is the most precious. Then, let the mini dragons and little dream monsters eat them for these little dragons to see. Yang Yu blinked. Senior brother Qian, why did he suddenly start to think crazy? To be honest, he really didn't have this idea. When he first saw the Chenglong group, he never thought about collecting a Chenglong from them. The Chenglong itself possesses extraordinary wisdom. If it is true, if one were to be forcibly collected, a battle would definitely be unavoidable. Since you don't plan to collect it, then why waste the energy cubes to feed the little Chenglong? Senior brother Qian can feel happy when he feeds little Chenglong, but Yang Yu will feel heartbroken when he feeds little Chenglong. After all, Yang Yu tightened his belt and lived a good life. I understand. Wu Yuqian's eyes suddenly lit up, his voice became louder, and he looked at Yang Yu with bright eyes, making Yang Yu feel a little panic. Well, brother Wu, you You, what do you understand? Yang Yu trembled. Wonderful. In this way, with the performances of the mini dragons and the little dream monsters, these special energy cubes will become more delicious, especially for the little dragons who can't eat them, they are simply fatal. Attractive, Wu Yuqian continued his analysis. Yang Yu rubbed his eyes in confusion. What's going on? What fatal attraction? Could it be that, these small dragons have taken a fancy to many dragons? Yang Yu's eyes suddenly squinted, menacing. Hurrah! You didn't learn well at a young age, and you started falling in love now? No wonder when the mini dragon came back excitedly, he had to introduce this group of small dragons to Yang Yu. In the past, the mini dragons only cared about eating themselves. When did they care about anything else? How long has it been before they actually thought about the small dragons? Just when the anger in Yang Yu's chest became stronger and stronger, Wu Yuqian continued, the more you can't eat, the more you want to eat it. These little dragons behave so intimately one by one, even after eating the expressions are all filled with gratitude. This trick of playing hard to get is wonderful. It is more effective for the younger elves, and it is more effective for the greedier elves. Wu Yuqian paused and said, little Chenglong, takes both. Having already established a friendly relationship with the Chenglong group, now that the impression of the young Chenglongs on you is rising, the large Chenglongs, who are very concerned about the young Chenglongs, will also release more kindness. In this way, awesome, awesome. Yang Yu suddenly felt as if the breath in his chest was suddenly blocked and he couldn't release it. What Brother Wu said, why did it seem to be a little different from what he thought? Brother Wu, what are you talking about? Yang Yu couldn't help complaining in his heart. What's truly amazing is probably not Wu Yuqian's brain power. Yang Yu, originally just wanted to save some energy cubes. How could I have expected so many unexpected things later? Boom. Boom. These little dragons moved their necks up and down gratefully in the direction of Yang Yu. Under the night, their eyes were as full and undulating as the sea water. How could they remember how stingy Yang Yu looked during the day? Children are like this. Give them something delicious to eat, and the unhappiness in your heart will soon disappear without a trace, and you will even feel grateful in your heart. The mini dragon was now wrapped around Yang Yu's neck, twisting and turning, feeling very happy. Papi Ba. Tijapai has just broken out of its shell and is not suitable for directly consuming energy cubes. At this time, Wu Yuqian immediately summoned the milk can, produced some moo milk, and then handed it to Yang Yu. Drinking moo milk is the right thing to do. Kabi is the best nutritional supplement at this time. A thought briefly came to Wu Yuqian's mind, but he quickly suppressed it calmly. He was wondering if he would be able to gain more favor from the Chenglong clan like Yang Yu if he summoned milk cans for the little Chenglongs to drink moo milk from the beginning, but Wu Yuqian would not do that. Don't worry about scarcity, but worry about inequality. The amount of moo milk that the milk can produce is limited and cannot satisfy all the small Chenglongs in the Chenglong group, and it is easy to cause conflicts due to uneven distribution. In this way, the energy cube is still more effective. Forget it, let's not worry about it. Worrying about gains and losses is not my character, Wu Yuqian. Wu Yuqian shook his head, stretched out his hand and waved in the direction of the little dragons. He was delighted to find that these little dragons still swimming happily in his direction. Touch your head, touch your neck. Hey, what a joy! Wu Yuqian reached out and picked up a small Chenglong from the sea, and gently placed it beside him, that is, on the back of the salted fish king. Boom boom. The little Chenglong may look like a snail that has been magnified many times. When it landed on the back of the salted fish king, I was still a little panicked. But when it steadily landed on the broad back of the salted fish king, it suddenly I found, it's quite fun here. Boom. Anguyo. The little Chenglong who came to the back of Xianyu King seemed to have discovered a new world, and roared to help his friends. At this time, All the little Chenglongs lined up in front of Yang Yu and Wu Yuqian, opening their eyes. Looking at Yang Yu and Wu Yuqian with expectant eyes. Sit in rows and divide the fruits. The little dragons were arranged neatly and clearly. Even the salted fish king himself didn't notice that as more and more little dragons came on his back, his body sank little by little in the sea water. It turned out that it was put your chin on the big beautiful head and look at the moon and count the stars together. Male only feels that her head is getting heavier and heavier. The neck seems to be compressed and shortened. The big beauty broke free with a little force. At this height, originally the great beauty could only reach the salty fish king's big chin, but it was precisely because of the sinking of the salty fish king's body. Male felt that her eyes suddenly went dark, and even her head went into the big mouth of the salted fish king. Salted fish king. Great beauty. A beautiful misunderstanding was born like this. Both salted fish king and Male froze at this moment. Not moving, not daring to move. Do you still remember? In that glass container. Just because I took one more look among the Magi carp crowd. I can never forget your face again. The little fish jumped up, escaped from the container, and fell into the mouth of the huge carp king. I would rather believe that we had an appointment in our previous life. The love story of this life will never change again. I would rather spend this life waiting for you to discover. I've always been by your side and haven't gone far. Pokemon's Character Master. Author, Ai Ren Huo Chiang Shao. Chapter 501. Dada held Digipi in one hand and held the bottle prepared in advance in the other. He warmed it with hot water and then started to feed Digipi moo milk. Poppy Ba. Digipi smelled the unique milky fragrance of moo milk, which was very attractive to him. His hands and feet excitedly kicked up in Dudu's arms, but Dudu was still able to hold Digipi firmly. Yeah. Drink moo milk. Dede opened his mouth wide, and Digipi also opened his mouth wide. Digipi continued to open his mouth, unwilling to admit defeat, but he was still no match for Dede. He narrowed his eyes and smiled innocently, put the nipple of the bottle into Digipi's mouth, and then gently swayed his fat body from left to right. Digipi's waving and kicking gradually became smaller. After tasting the taste of moo milk, he began to drink it peacefully. Not noisy or noisy. The little dream demon is floating on top of Digipi. The little dream demon likes this Digipi now. It's like when you were a kid, there was a crying kid behind you who was full of runny nose and full of tears. When the kid didn't cry and was sensible, it was so much fun. The little dream demon motioned to Digipi to drink more. This moo milk is so delicious. Drink more and stay healthy. Although the little Chenglong on the side looked at the moo milk in the bottle with greedy eyes, elves like Chenglong have a caring and protective character, even if the weak Digipi in front of him starts to cry. It's still very scary, but the little dragons know that this Digipi has just emerged from its shell. There are a group of dragons here and an army of Carp King. We don't need to find an island to rest. It will definitely be extremely safe tonight, Wu Yuqian said. Well, it seems that these Chenglongs are ready to rest. They lie down and form a circle with their necks. It looks a bit like a very small island. Yang Yu gestured in the direction of Chenglong. The grey carapaces on the backs of these dragons now look like pieces of rocks. The center surrounded by the dragons is where the little dragons will rest tonight. Digipi has been playing for so long, and has made heaven change his color since he was born. Now after drinking warm moo milk, he fell asleep in a short while. Digipi retracts into his shell and becomes an egg-like Digipi. This is his sleeping position. If he is not fixed properly by accident, he can easily roll to other places. Especially on the sea, it needs to be protected. Boom, boom. A small dragon gently gestured to the shell on its back. The uneven place was just enough for Digipi's elf egg to rest securely on it. Yang Yu didn't know that this little Chenglong was the first one that Yang Yu touched the most, and it was also the one that played with Digipi, little dream demon, and the mini dragon the most. After going through so much in the past few days, it's time for Dede to take a peaceful rest. Yeah. Dede did not refuse little Chenglong's kindness, and firmly placed Tijipai in the center of the triangular armrest formed on little Chenglong's back. The little dream demon pointed to the back of the little Chenglong, indicating that she would sleep there today, and then she would have to take care of Tijipai. Of course Yang Yu was willing to see such a thing, and he kept praising himself in his heart. He thought that it was really wise for him to let the little dream demon take the Tijipai elf eggs for an outing. Why is he so witty? After arranging everything, Yang Yu went back to look for the mini dragon, only to find that the mini dragon had already rested early. It was in the sleeping posture, with a long overturned posture, and the big white belly was actually facing the sky. It's like water boiling. It's also a strange flower. Good night, good night, good night. Late at night on the sea, it feels like you are in a sea of stars. Looking up at the starry sky, the stars are bright and the sea is magnificent, reflecting the stars in the sky, twinkling and mysterious, mysterious and beautiful. In this quiet sea area, there is a giant Gyarados on the left and right sides, clearly separated in the middle. The group of Magi carp on the right that looks like they are sleeping, are actually mostly still splashing on the water surface. The gentle splashing sound will not wake up the resting Magi carp or explode. The carp dragons will actually let them rest better and feel more at ease. Magi carp is still here. Perhaps if one day you can't hear the splashing sound of Magi carp, then it will be the nightmare of Magikarp's army and Gyarados. Left side. However, the Chenglong group was quiet, with no other sounds except the slight breathing. Chenglong can sense the danger of the ocean through the fluctuations of the sea water. If a dangerous spirit approaches, they will wake up immediately and prepare to fight back. The aura of the salted fish king was steady and deep, but not strongly aggressive or malicious. The same was true for the Gyarados. The rest of the dragons were still very calm and comfortable. On the gray shells on the backs of the small dragons in the center, there is an elf egg placed upright that is particularly eye-catching. Next to the elf egg, there was a dark elf, lying not far away and resting peacefully. The sea breeze blew gently, and the elf egg seemed to move vaguely. The elf egg trembled slightly, first stretched out its two pointed little hands, and then patted the eggshell with those two pointed little hands, as if to cheer itself up, its left foot and right, then the legs stretched out. I moved my hands, feet, and found that it was not cold outside, so my head that had been retracted in its shell slowly came out. Squint your eyes and observe secretly. Porkpie rubbed the corners of his eyes that were still a little confused at the moment, and he could see the picture in front of him more clearly. The sky is still dark, with many stars. Tijipai's eyes are like starlight, and he looks at the starry sky with amazement on his face. Wow! Bobby, what? The sea water rippled slightly, and the sound of lapping attracted Tijipai's attention. When Tijipai leaned on the armrest and looked down toward the sea. Under the sea, two red dots appeared. Like a pair of eyes from the abyss. But Tijipai could see very clearly with his eyes wide open. This was not a pair of eyes at all, but a fish. The two big red dots on the left and right looked like a pair of red eyes under the light of the stars. Woo! A gentle and deep voice came from the sea. The owner of those two big red dots, at this moment, slowly poked his head out from under the sea. The body has obvious marks one after another, like an ancient map carved out. It has an ancient name. Ancient Coelacanth. Poppy Ba. Ba. The moment the lesser dragon raised his head in confusion, the ancient coelacanth completely disappeared before Tijipai's eyes. A little late, continue to ask for votes.